I knew something was wrong the second my brother told me to cook dinner, while I still had hospital tape stuck to my skin. Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "You scared us." Not even a fake, "Glad you're alive." Just, "Quit acting dramatic and make something to eat." And honestly, that wasn't even the part that broke me. It was the moment his voice cut off mid-sentence. When he finally noticed the man standing behind me, that's when everything shifted. That's when my entire life started to unravel. My name is Stella Carter. I'm 23 years old, and 4 days before that moment, I almost died alone on my bathroom floor. But to understand why my own family didn't care, you have to go back to the first mistake I ever made. Saying yes. I was 19, standing in a tiny studio apartment just outside Columbus, Ohio. It wasn't much. Cracked linoleum floors, a fridge that hummed like it had something to say, and walls so thin I could hear my neighbor arguing with her boyfriend every Thursday night. But it was mine. I paid for it with double shifts at a diner and a campus library job that barely covered textbooks. I ate ramen more often than real food, but I didn't care. For the first time in my life, I had space that belonged to me. Then my mom called, and the second I saw her name on my phone, something in my chest tightened. You know that feeling? When you already know the conversation isn't going to go your way. "Hey, sweetheart," she said, voice soft but already heavy with expectation. That tone, I knew it too well. "Your brother's going through a rough time." Of course he was. Derek was always going through something. Lost jobs, bad luck, unfair bosses, broken cars, missed opportunities. There was always a reason, always an excuse. "What happened this time?" I asked, already bracing myself. Lost his job again," she sighed. "Just temporary. He just needs a place to stay for a few months." A few months. Those 3 words should have been my warning sign. "He can stay with you, right?" she added quickly. "You've got your own place now." I hesitated. Not long, just enough to feel it. The instinct. The quiet voice in my head saying, "Don't do this." But then she said it. "I raised you 2 on my own, Stella. I never asked for much. I just need your help right now." And just like that, I folded. Because when your mom reminds you of everything she sacrificed, saying no feels like betrayal. So I said yes. And that was the beginning of everything. Derek showed up 3 days later with 2 trash bags and an attitude like he was doing me a favor. "This place is small," he said, glancing around like he was inspecting a motel. "It's what I can afford," I replied. He shrugged, dropped his bags on my couch, and turned on my TV without asking. "Don't worry," he added. "I'll only be here a couple months." I nodded. I actually believed him. The first month, he handed me 200 in wrinkled bills. "More coming soon," he said. The second month, nothing. The third month, excuses. "I'm between jobs. I've got interviews lined up. I'll catch up, don't stress." I called my mom. "You said he'd help with rent." "He told me he's been sending you money," she replied. My stomach dropped. "He hasn't sent me anything." There was a pause. Just a second too long. "He's struggling, Stella," she said finally. "Don't pressure him." That was the first time I realized something wasn't right. But it wasn't the last. Months turned into a year. A year turned into 4. And somewhere along the way, my apartment stopped feeling like mine. His gaming console replaced my books on the shelf. His friends filled the space with loud laughter and cheap beer every night. His shoes lined the hallway like he owned the place. And me. I became invisible. I worked, I paid, I cleaned, I cooked, every single day. "Hey, what's for dinner?" became his favorite sentence. At first, it was casual, almost joking. Then it became expectation. Then it became entitlement. If I didn't cook, he'd call my mom. And she'd call me. "Just make him something, Stella. It's not that hard." Not that hard. Funny how the people who never lift a finger always say that. I started skipping meals so groceries would last longer. Started picking up extra shifts just to keep up with bills he promised to help with. Started losing sleep because his friends treated my place like a frat house. And every time I tried to speak up, my mom would shut it down. "With everything I've done for you, this is how you act." So I stayed quiet. I kept paying, kept giving, kept shrinking. Until one day, I didn't even recognize my own life anymore. Then came the pain. It started as a dull ache in my stomach. Nothing serious, I told myself, just stress. Because of course it was stress. What else could it be? I ignored it for days. Worked through it. Cleaned through it. Because if I stopped, everything would fall apart. Right, that's what I believed. Until the night my body forced me to stop. I was standing in the bathroom, brushing my teeth when it hit. Sharp, sudden. Like something inside me just snapped. I dropped to my knees so fast the tile cracked under the impact. My vision blurred. My hands shook. I couldn't breathe. I remember grabbing my phone. Calling my best friend, Sarah. "Something's wrong," I whispered. That's all I got out before she hung up and called 911. Derek was in the next room, watching TV. He heard me fall. I know he did. The floor literally shook. He knocked on the door once. "You good?" he called, annoyed. Not concerned. Annoyed. I couldn't answer. By the time the paramedics arrived, I was barely conscious. They carried me out on a stretcher while Derek stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "Is all this really necessary?" he muttered. I didn't even have the strength to look at him. At the hospital, everything moved fast. Bright lights. Cold air. Voices I couldn't focus on. And then, ruptured appendix. Internal infection. Another few hours and this could have turned septic. Those words didn't fully hit me until later, because by then, I was already being wheeled into surgery. And do you know who was there when I woke up? Not my brother, not my mother. Just Sarah. Still in her scrubs. Still exhausted. Still there. Holding my hand like it mattered. 4 days. That's how long I stayed in that hospital. 4 days of silence from the people who were supposed to care. Until I walked back into my apartment, still healing. Still weak. Still stitched together. And my brother told me to make him dinner. But he didn't see who was standing behind me. Not yet. And when he finally did, everything changed. "Who the hell is that?" That's what Derek said. Not, "Hey, you okay?" Not, "You look like hell." Not even, "Where have you been?" Just, suspicion. Because the only thing that mattered to him in that moment wasn't me. It was the man standing behind me. I didn't answer right away. I just stood there in the doorway, one hand pressed against my side where the stitches pulled tight every time I breathed too deeply. My body felt like it didn't belong to me anymore, like I'd been taken apart and put back together wrong. And Derek, he was sitting on my couch. My couch, surrounded by empty beer cans, crumbs scattered across the coffee table, a half-eaten pizza hardening on the floor like it had been there for days. Which it had. The smell hit me next. Rotten food, stale air, something sour lingering in the sink. 4 days. I'd been gone 4 days, and he hadn't cleaned a single thing. I stepped inside slowly, each movement deliberate, careful. Behind me, Adrian closed the door quietly. Derek's eyes flicked between us. "You gonna answer me?" he snapped, sitting up straighter. "Who is this guy?" I ignored him. Not because I didn't hear him. Because I was done responding to him like he had authority in my life. I moved past the couch, into the kitchen. And it was worse up close. Dishes piled high in the sink, crusted over. A pot on the stove with something burned black at the bottom, milk dried into a ring inside a glass that had probably been sitting there since the night I left. I felt something shift inside me. Not anger. Not yet. Something colder, something clearer. 4 days. I said quietly. Derek scoffed. "Yeah, you gonna keep repeating that or actually do something useful?" I turned around slowly. He froze. Because something in my face must have looked different. Something he didn't recognize. Adrian stepped forward just enough to be visible in the kitchen now. He didn't say anything. Didn't need to. His presence alone changed the air in the room. Derek stood up. "Look, man," he said, forcing a laugh, "appreciate you bringing her back or whatever, but we're good now. You can head out." Adrian didn't move. Didn't even look at him. Instead, he glanced at me. "Do you want me to stay?" he asked. One simple question, no pressure, no assumptions, just choice. And for the first time in a long time I realized I had one. "Yes," I said. Derek's smile dropped. "Seriously?" he snapped. "You bringing strangers into our place now? Our place." That word hit me harder than anything else. Like he'd earned that. Like he'd contributed anything to it. I walked over to the kitchen table, pulled out a chair, and sat down slowly. My body protested immediately, pain shooting through my abdomen, but I ignored it. Because this moment, it mattered more. I opened the drawer, pulled out the folder Sarah had brought me from the hospital, and placed it on the table. Derek watched me, confusion creeping into his expression. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Sit down," I said. He laughed. "Stella, I'm not." "Sit down." My voice didn't rise, but something in it made him pause. After a second, he pulled out a chair and dropped into it. Still trying to act casual. Still trying to act like he wasn't nervous, I opened the folder, pulled out the lease agreement, flattened it on the table between us. "This is the lease for this apartment," I said. He rolled his eyes. "Yeah, I know where I live." "No," I corrected calmly. "You know where you stay." His jaw tightened. I pointed to the name on the document. One name, mine. He shifted in his seat. So you're not on it?" Silence. "You never have been." He scoffed. "Mom said." "Mom doesn't own this apartment." I cut in. "She doesn't pay for it. She doesn't get to decide who lives here." His foot started bouncing under the table. "A nervous habit. I'd seen it before. You've been here 4 years." I continued. "You've never paid rent." "Not once." "That's not true. I have bank statements," I said, tapping the folder. "Every payment, every bill, all in my name." Adrian shifted slightly behind me. Still silent. Still watching. Derek's eyes flicked to him, then back to me. "Why are you doing this?" he demanded. I leaned back in my chair. Careful. Controlled. "Because I'm done." Those 3 words landed harder than anything else I'd said. He blinked. Like he didn't understand them, like they didn't make sense in the world he'd been living in. "Done with what?" he asked. "With this," I said, gesturing around the apartment. "With you living here like I owe you something. With being your backup plan." His face twisted. "Wow," he said, shaking his head. "So that's what this is. You think you're better than me now?" I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was so predictable. "This isn't about being better," I said. "It's about being done being used." He slammed his hand on the table. "You're unbelievable," he snapped. "After everything we've been through." "Wah," I interrupted. That stopped him. "Wah," I repeated. "Tell me one thing you've done for me in the last 4 years." He opened his mouth, closed it, looked away. "Exactly." I reached into the folder again, pulled out a printed document, and slid it across the table toward him. "What's this?" he muttered. "Your notice." He frowned. "Notice for what?" I met his eyes. "You have 30 days to move out." Silence. Real silence this time. Not the kind filled with TV noise or background distractions. The kind that presses in on you. Forces you to feel it. "You're joking," he said finally. "I'm not." "You can't do that." "I can," I replied. "And I am." He stood up so fast the chair scraped loudly against the floor. "This is insane," he snapped. "You're kicking me out. Your own brother." "I'm asking an adult to take responsibility for his own life." "Same thing," he shot back. "No," I said calmly. "It's not." He ran a hand through his hair, pacing now. "This is because of him, isn't it?" he said, pointing at Adrian. "You trying to impress him or something?" I felt my stomach drop. Not from pain. From how low he was willing to go. "This has nothing to do with him," I said. "This is 4 years of me finally saying enough." He laughed. But there was no humor in it. "Unbelievable," he muttered. "You really think you can just throw me out like trash?" I held his gaze. "You've had 4 years to prove you weren't." That hit. I saw it, the way his expression cracked for just a second before he covered it with anger. "You know what?" he snapped. "Fine. Call Mom. Let's see what she has to say about this." He grabbed his phone. Dialed. Put it on speaker. Because of course he did. Because he needed backup. Because he always had someone else fighting his battles. The phone rang once. Twice. Then, "Derek, what's wrong?" His voice changed instantly. "Mom, Stella's trying to kick me out," he said. I closed my eyes for a second. Of course that's how he framed it. Not the truth. Not the full story, just enough to make me the villain. Stella. My mom's voice sharpened. What is he talking about? I leaned forward. Hi, Mom. Silence. Then, what is going on? She demanded. I took a breath, felt the pull in my stitches, ignored it. I'm giving Derek 30 days to move out. The explosion was immediate. You can't do that? She snapped. He's your brother? He's an adult, I replied. He has nowhere to go. That's not my responsibility anymore. You're being selfish. There it was. That word, the one she always used when I stopped giving. I glanced at Adrian. He didn't react. Didn't interrupt. But his presence grounded me. Reminded me I wasn't crazy. That this, all of this, wasn't normal. I was in the hospital for 4 days, I said. There was a pause. A hospital? She repeated. For what? I blinked. You didn't know. No, she said. Derek said you had a stomach bug. I felt something inside me snap. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just clean. Sharp. Final. It wasn't a stomach bug, I said quietly. It was a ruptured appendix. I had emergency surgery. Silence. Longer this time. He said you were fine, she murmured. I looked at Derek. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He also said I should make him dinner the second I walked through the door. I added. Still silence. And then, Stella, she said slowly. That's when I knew. Nothing was going to change. Not with her. Not with him. Not unless I made it change. And this time, I wasn't backing down. Stella, you're exaggerating. That's what my mom said. After everything. After surgery. After 4 days in a hospital bed. After almost dying alone on a bathroom floor. Exaggerating. I didn't react right away. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just went quiet. Because in that moment, something inside me finally clicked into place. Not anger. Not hurt. Clarity. The kind that doesn't come with noise, just a cold, steady understanding that nothing you say will matter to someone who's already decided you're wrong. I leaned forward slightly, gripping the edge of the table. Okay, I said calmly. Let's talk about facts then. Derek shifted in his seat. My mom stayed silent on the phone, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I've been paying first $100 in rent every month for 4 years. I continued. That's over $50,000. No response. I've been sending you $300 every single month. I added, my voice steady. That's over $14,000. A pause. Longer this time. I've covered utilities, groceries, internet, everything, I said. That's another $20,000. Minimum. Derek stared at the table. My mom's breathing got heavier on the other end of the line. So tell me, I said quietly. What exactly have I been exaggerating? Silence. The kind that fills your ears. The kind that forces people to sit with the truth. Family doesn't keep score like that. My mom said finally. I almost smiled. Not because it was funny. Because it was predictable. You're right, I said. A healthy family doesn't have to. That landed. I could hear it in the way she didn't immediately respond. In the way Derek stopped fidgeting. In the way the room suddenly felt different. Like something had shifted. Who is that man? My mom asked suddenly, her voice sharp again. Why is he there? Of course, deflect, change the subject, control the narrative. I didn't answer, but Adrian did. He stepped forward slightly, his voice calm and even. My name is Adrian Hale, he said. I work with Stella. I brought her home from the hospital. Silence. Then, this is a private family matter. My mom snapped. I understand, Adrian replied, but I witnessed enough in the last 15 minutes to know this situation isn't normal. Derek stood up. Yo, man, stay out of this. He snapped. You don't know anything. Adrian didn't even look at him. He looked at me. Do you want me to stay? He asked again. Same question. Same calm tone, but this time, it meant more. Because now I understood what he was really asking. Do you want support? Do you want someone to witness this? Do you want to stop pretending this is okay? Yes, I said. Derek threw his hands up. This is ridiculous, he snapped. You're bringing outsiders into family business now. I ignored him. Because for the first time, I realized something important. Silence isn't loyalty, endurance isn't love. And protecting people who hurt you isn't strength. It's self-destruction. I'm coming over, my mom said suddenly. The words cut through everything. Derek froze. I blinked. You don't need to do that, I said. I absolutely do, she replied. This has gone too far. The line went dead. Derek let out a breath. Good, he muttered. She'll straighten this out. I didn't respond, because deep down, I knew she wouldn't. And for the first time, I didn't want her to. The next 20 minutes felt like hours. Derek paced the apartment, muttering under his breath, occasionally throwing me looks like I'd betrayed him. I sat at the table. Still, quiet, present. Adrian stayed near the kitchen, arms loosely crossed, not interfering, not speaking, just there, and somehow, that made all the difference. You really gonna do this? Derek said finally, stopping in front of me. I already am. You're seriously kicking me out over dishes and food. I looked up at him. If that's what you think this is about, then you've learned nothing. He scoffed. Whatever, man. You've always been dramatic. I didn't react, didn't rise to it, because his words didn't hold weight anymore. Not like they used to. You know what? He snapped suddenly. If you kick me out, I'll wreck this place. I swear, I'll break everything. The threat hung in the air. Heavy, ugly, real, and for a split second, the old version of me flinched, the one who avoided conflict, the one who kept the peace at any cost. But that version, she didn't exist anymore. That would be destruction of property, I said calmly. And there's a witness. Derek's eyes flicked to Adrian. Adrian had already pulled out his phone, not aggressively, not dramatically, just prepared. What are you doing? Derek snapped, calling the non-emergency police line. Adrian replied evenly, just in case. Derek's face changed instantly. The anger cracked, replaced by something else. Fear. You're calling the cops on me, he said. No. Adrian replied. You made a threat, I'm documenting it. Derek looked at me, then back at him, then at the floor. And just like that, the power shifted, because suddenly, this wasn't just family drama. It was reality, consequences, accountability. Where am I supposed to go? He muttered. And there it was. Not anger, not manipulation, just panic. For a second, my chest tightened. Because this was still my brother. The kid who used to walk me to school. The one who made me laugh when things were hard. But that version of him. He'd been gone for a long time. And I couldn't keep pretending he was still here. That's not my responsibility anymore, I said quietly. He didn't argue. Didn't yell. He just sat down. And stared at the floor. The knock came 20 minutes later. Sharp, fast, demanding. Derek stood up immediately. That's Mom, he said. Of course it was. I didn't move. Didn't rush. Didn't prepare. Because for once I wasn't bracing myself. I was ready. Sarah walked in first. Still in her scrubs, hair tied back, exhaustion written all over her face. She scanned the room in seconds. Derek. Me, Adrian. The tension. What did I miss? She asked. I let out a small breath. Everything, I said. She nodded. Like she already knew. Like she'd been waiting for this moment just as long as I had. She placed a folder on the table. I brought your discharge papers, she said. And tenant rights, just in case. Of course she did. Because Sarah didn't just support me. She prepared me. Derek looked at her. You're part of this too, he asked. She met his gaze. I'm not against you, she said calmly. I'm for her. He didn't have a response. Because there wasn't one. A few minutes later, the door opened again. And my mom walked in. Still in her slippers. Still holding on to control like it was the only thing keeping her standing. Her eyes moved quickly around the apartment. The mess, the tension, the people. And then landed on me. This needs to stop, she said immediately. No hello, no concern, no acknowledgement of what I'd just gone through. Just control. No, I said calmly. It needs to change. Her expression hardened. You're being influenced, she said, glancing at Sarah and Adrian. This isn't you. I almost laughed, because for the first time in years, this was exactly me. This is me, I said. You just don't like it? The room went quiet. And just like that, the real confrontation began. This isn't you. That's what my mom said, standing in the middle of my apartment like she still owned the place, like she still owned me. Her eyes moved from Sarah to Adrian. Then back to me, searching for something familiar. Something obedient. Something she could still control, but she didn't find it. Because that version of me, she didn't survive the hospital. No, I said, my voice steady. This is exactly me. You just don't recognize it because I stopped saying yes. The words hit harder than I expected. I saw it in the way her posture stiffened. In the way her lips pressed together. In the way Derek looked up from the couch like he was watching something break. You're being disrespectful. She snapped. No, I replied. I'm being honest. The air in the room tightened. Sarah stayed seated, calm but alert. Adrian stood near the counter, silent, observant. And Derek? He looked like a kid waiting for someone else to fix his mess. Like always. My mom stepped closer to the table, her slippers scuffing softly against the floor. This whole situation is ridiculous, she said. You're throwing your own brother out over what? Dirty dishes. A few missed bills. I let out a slow breath. If that's what you think this is about, I said, then you haven't been listening. She waved her hand dismissively. Then explain it to me. So I did, but not emotionally, not defensively, factually, like I was reading a report. In 4 years, I've paid over $80,000 to keep this apartment running. Her eyes flickered. Derek shifted. I continued. Rent, utilities, groceries, everything. You're exaggerating again. I have statements. I cut in, tapping the folder. Every transaction. Every month. She went quiet, just for a second. But it was enough. And the $300 I've been sending you every month, I added. What exactly was that for? Her face changed. Subtle. But I caught it. That's none of your business, she said. It became my business the second I couldn't afford groceries because I was sending you money I didn't have. Silence. Derek looked between us. Confused, like he was hearing this for the first time. Mom, he said slowly. What money? She didn't answer him. She looked at me instead. You don't understand what it's like to struggle, she said, her voice tightening. I did what I had to do. Something about that sentence, it almost made me laugh. Because it was so close to the truth. And yet, completely missed it. No, I said quietly. You did what was easiest for you. Her eyes flashed. How dare you? You told him he could live here for free, I said, nodding toward Derek. And you told me he was paying you. Derek's head snapped toward her. What? He said. She still didn't look at him. Tell him, I said. The room went completely still. The kind of silence that doesn't feel empty, it feels heavy. Like truth pressing down on everyone at once. I didn't want to worry you, she said finally. Derek let out a short, disbelieving laugh. So you lied, he said. She turned on him instantly. I was protecting you. From what? He shot back. Paying rent. Her voice rose. You were already struggling? No, I wasn't, he snapped. You just didn't want to deal with me? That landed hard. Because for the first time, he wasn't wrong. And she knew it. Her expression cracked for just a second before she pulled herself back together. This isn't about me, she said sharply. This is about her trying to tear this family apart. I shook my head slowly. No, I said. This is about me finally refusing to hold it together by myself. That stopped her. Because that was the truth she couldn't twist. She looked around the apartment again. The mess. The tension. The reality she'd been avoiding. You're overreacting, she said. But her voice was weaker now. Families go through hard times. Hard times don't last 4 years, I replied. Derek sat down heavily on the couch, running his hands over his face. This is crazy, he muttered. All of this over money? I looked at him. No, I said, over respect. He didn't respond, because he didn't have anything to say. For the first time in his life, he was out of excuses. My mom tried one last time. You're really going to do this? She asked. Throw your brother out like he's nothing? I met her eyes. I'm asking him to live like an adult. And if he can't? I didn't hesitate. Then that's his responsibility. Not mine. The words felt heavy, but they also felt right. Like something I should have said years ago. Derek looked up at me. There was something different in his expression now. Not anger, not arrogance, something closer to fear. "You're serious," he said quietly. "Yes." He swallowed, looked at the floor, then back at me. "Where am I supposed to go?" There it was again. That question. The one that used to break me. The one that used to make me cave. But not anymore. "You'll figure it out," I said. His jaw tightened. "Wow," he muttered. "So that's it? You just stopped caring?" I shook my head. "No," I said softly. "I stopped sacrificing myself." That hit him. I saw it. The way his shoulders dropped slightly. The way his anger lost its edge. Because deep down, he knew. He just never thought I'd say it out loud. My mom stood there, watching both of us. Realizing something she hadn't expected. She wasn't in control anymore, and there was nothing she could do about it. "This isn't over," she said finally. "It is for me," I replied. The room went quiet again, but this time, it felt different. Not tense, not explosive, just final. Adrian stepped forward slightly. "Stella," he said quietly. "Do you need anything else from me?" I looked at him. For a moment, I didn't know what to say, because what he'd already done, it mattered more than he probably realized. "No," I said. "Thank you. For everything." He nodded, simple, professional, but there was something in his expression, respect, and maybe, understanding. Then he turned and walked out. No drama, no speeches, and somehow, that made everything feel even more real. Because now it was just us, family. No witnesses left, no buffer, just truth. Sarah stayed. Quiet, present, steady. Derek sat on the couch, broken in a way I'd never seen before. And my mom, she looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time, not as her daughter. Not as someone she could guilt or control. But as someone she didn't fully understand anymore. "You've changed," she said. I nodded. I had to. She didn't argue, didn't push, didn't cry. Not this time. Because for once, tears wouldn't work. Nothing would. The balance had shifted. And there was no going back. But what none of us realized in that moment was that the next 30 days were about to test every single boundary I'd just set, and not everyone was going to respect them. "I'm not leaving." That's what Derek said the next morning. Not asked. Not argued. Declared. Like the conversation we had the night before never happened. I was standing in the kitchen, carefully pouring coffee into a mug, because my hands still weren't steady yet. My stitches pulled every time I moved too fast, a constant reminder that my body hadn't fully caught up to my decisions yet. But my mind, crystal clear. I didn't turn around right away. Didn't rush to respond, because I knew this moment was coming. People like Derek don't accept change, they test it. Push it. Wait for it to break. "I'm serious, Stella," he added, louder this time. "I'm not going anywhere." I took a slow sip of coffee. Let the silence sit. Then I turned. He was standing in the living room, arms crossed, like he was bracing for a fight. Like he thought this was still a negotiation. "It's not up for debate," I said calmly. His jaw tightened. "You think you can just throw me out like that?" he snapped. "After everything?" I tilted my head slightly. "After everything what?" That threw him off, because there was no answer. Not a real one. He scoffed. "You know what I mean?" "No," I said. "I don't. So explain it." He opened his mouth, closed it, looked away. "Exactly. You've had 4 years, Derek," I continued. 4 years of free rent, free food, free everything. This isn't sudden. This is overdue." His expression hardened. "You're acting like I did nothing," he said. I held his gaze. "Then tell me what you did." Silence. Again, it was becoming a pattern. Because the truth didn't have his back anymore. "This is messed up," he muttered. "You've changed." I nodded. "I have." "Yeah," he said bitterly. "You got selfish." That word again. Funny how boundaries always sound like selfishness to people who benefit from you having none. "I got honest." I corrected. He laughed, shaking his head. "Whatever helps you sleep at night." I didn't react. Didn't rise to it. Because this wasn't about winning an argument. This was about holding a line, and I wasn't moving. 30 days. I said. "That's what you have." He stared at me. trying to figure out if I meant it, trying to find the crack, the weakness, the version of me that would cave. But he didn't find her, because she was gone. And he knew it. You really gonna do this? He asked quietly. Less. The room went still, and for the first time since this started, he didn't argue, didn't yell, didn't threaten. He just walked away. Back to the couch, back to his phone, like none of it mattered. But I knew better. Because silence like that, it wasn't acceptance. It was strategy, and I was right. The messages started that afternoon. First, my aunt, Stella, your mom is devastated. You need to fix this. Then my uncle, family doesn't do this to each other. Then my grandma. Call your mother. This is breaking her heart. I stared at my phone, reading the same message, different voices. Same pressure, same narrative. And I realized something. They didn't know the truth. They only knew the version my mom told them. The version where I was the villain. So for the first time, I didn't stay quiet. I called my aunt back. Stella. Thank God you picked up, she said immediately. What is going on with you? I took a breath. Did Mom tell you I was in the hospital last week? A pause. She said you had a stomach bug, she replied. Of course she did. It wasn't a stomach bug, I said. It was emergency surgery. My appendix ruptured. I could have died. Silence. Long. Heavy. She didn't say that, my aunt murmured. I know, I said. And Derek? She asked slowly. Didn't visit, didn't call. And when I got home, he told me to make him dinner. Another silence. Different this time. Not defensive, not dismissive. Just shocked. I didn't know, she said quietly. I figured, I replied. The conversation changed after that. Not completely, but enough. Because truth has a way of cutting through noise. When people are actually willing to hear it. By the end of the day, the messages stopped, not because everyone suddenly agreed with me, but because the story wasn't one-sided anymore, and that made all the difference. Day 5. Derek hadn't spoken to me. Not really. Just short answers, cold looks, tension hanging in the air like something waiting to explode. But he also hadn't left, hadn't packed, hadn't done anything except exist in the space like he still owned it, and I let him. Because the timeline wasn't about him. It was about me holding steady. That night, there was a knock at the door. I froze for a second, then walked over and opened it. My mom stood there. Again. But this time, she looked different. Not angry, not defensive. Tired. Can I come in? She asked. I hesitated, just for a second, then stepped aside. She walked in slowly, looking around the apartment. It was cleaner now. I'd spent the last few days scrubbing everything. Not for him. For me, because I needed to take my space back, she noticed. I could tell. You've been busy, she said. I've been reclaiming my home, I replied. She nodded slightly. Didn't argue. Didn't deflect. That was new. Derek glanced up from the couch. Finally. He muttered. Talk some sense into her. My mom didn't respond. She walked past him. Sat down at the kitchen table, across from me. And for a moment, neither of us spoke. I didn't realize, she said finally. Her voice was quiet. Careful. Realize what? I asked. How much you were doing? She admitted. How much he wasn't. I studied her, trying to figure out if this was real, or just another angle. And the money? I asked. She looked down. I was using it for rent, she said. I didn't have enough each month. There it was. The truth, simple, uncomfortable, real. You could have told me, I said. I didn't want to look weak, she replied. I let that sit. Because I understood it, but it didn't excuse what came after. So instead? I said. You made me carry both of you. She didn't argue, didn't defend. Just nodded. I'm sorry, she said. The words felt strange. Like they didn't quite belong in her mouth, because I couldn't remember the last time she'd said them. If ever. I didn't respond right away. Because forgiveness wasn't automatic anymore. I'm not doing this to hurt you, I said finally. I'm doing this because I can't keep living like that. She nodded again. I know. Silence. Then, what happens now? She asked. I leaned back in my chair, careful of the pain. Derek has 30 days, I said. That doesn't change. She glanced toward the living room. Then back at me. And us? She asked quietly. I met her eyes. That depends on you. Her expression shifted. Not defensive, not angry, just uncertain. Because for the first time, the relationship wasn't one-sided, it wasn't controlled. It wasn't guaranteed, and she didn't know what to do with that. Okay, she said softly. Just one word. But it carried weight, because it wasn't an argument. It was acceptance, at least for now. She stood up, walked toward the door, paused. I'll talk to him, she said, nodding toward Derek. I replied. She left. The door closed, and the apartment fell quiet again. Derek didn't say anything, didn't look at me, didn't react, but I could feel it. The shift, the realization that this time I wasn't backing down, and whether he liked it or not, the countdown had already started. But what neither of us expected was how messy those next 25 days were about to get. I'm not done yet. That's what Derek said on day 10, standing in the middle of my living room with a half-packed garbage bag in his hand. And for a second, I thought he meant he wasn't done packing. But no. He meant something else. Something heavier. Something that made my stomach tighten, not from the stitches this time, but from instinct. Because I knew that tone. It wasn't defeat. It was resentment. And resentment, it doesn't go quietly. He'd been different the past few days, quieter, more controlled. Not the loud, careless version of Derek I'd been dealing with for years. This one watched, calculated, like he was waiting for the right moment. And apparently, this was it. What does that mean? I asked, keeping my voice calm. He dropped the bag on the floor, clothes spilling out slightly. Wrinkled shirts, old hoodies, pieces of a life that never really moved forward. It means, he said slowly. You think this is over, but it's not. I leaned against the wall, careful, steady. It is for me. He shook his head. No, it's not. Because you don't just get to walk away like nothing happened. I let out a small breath. That's exactly what I'm doing. His eyes flashed. After everything I've been through. There it was again. That line, that script. The one that always redirected the story back to him. What have you been through, Derek? I asked quietly. He hesitated, just for a second. But it was enough. You wouldn't understand, he muttered. You're right, I said. I don't understand how someone lives rent-free for 4 years and still thinks they're the victim. That hit hard. I saw it in the way his shoulders tensed, in the way his jaw clenched. You think you're perfect now, he snapped. You think you've got everything figured out? No, I said calmly. I think I finally stopped ignoring what was right in front of me. He laughed bitterly. Yeah, well, good luck with that. I didn't respond, because this wasn't about convincing him anymore. It was about finishing what I started. He picked up another bag, zipped it halfway, then stopped again. You know what the worst part is? He said. I didn't answer. You didn't even try to help me? He continued. You just gave up. That one almost got me, almost. Because there was a time when those words would have cut deep. Would have made me question everything. But not anymore. I gave you 4 years, I said quietly. That's not giving up. That's giving everything. He didn't respond. Because there was nothing left to say. The truth had already taken up all the space in the room. He finished packing in silence after that. No more arguments, no more accusations. Just the sound of zippers, shifting bags, and footsteps moving through a space that was no longer his. By the time he was done, the apartment looked different. Lighter. Not clean yet, but less occupied. Less heavy. He stood by the door, bags at his feet, and for a moment, he didn't move. Like he was waiting for something. An apology, a second chance. A reason to stay. But I didn't give him one. Because this time, I wasn't the one responsible for his next step. I guess this is it, he said finally. I nodded. Yes, he looked at me. Really looked. For the first time in years. And there was something there I didn't expect. Not anger, not arrogance, something closer to regret. I didn't think you'd actually do it, he admitted. I know. That was the problem. He let out a slow breath, picked up his bags, then paused at the door. I got a job, he said suddenly. I blinked. What? Warehouse, he added, part-time, for now. I studied him, trying to figure out if this was real, Or just another line. Good, I said. No excitement. No praise, just acknowledgement. Because this wasn't my achievement. It was his. Or at least, it needed to be. He nodded once. Like that was enough. Then he opened the door, stepped out, and just like that, he was gone. The silence that followed felt different. Not empty. Not tense. Just quiet. Real quiet. The kind I hadn't experienced in 4 years. I stood there for a long moment, just listening. No TV. No footsteps. No noise that didn't belong to me. And for the first time, I realized something. Peace isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It just shows up when everything else finally leaves. My phone buzzed. A message from Sarah. Did he go? I looked at the door. Then back at my phone. Yeah, I typed. He's gone. 3 dots appeared instantly. Then, proud of you. I stared at the screen for a second. Because those 3 words meant more than anything anyone else had said in weeks. Maybe years. Come over, I replied. On my way. Of course she was. She always was. An hour later, she walked in with a bag of groceries and that same calm energy that had carried me through everything. She took one look around the apartment, then smiled. Feels different, she said. It is, I replied. We didn't celebrate, didn't make a big deal out of it. We just cleaned. Together. Slowly, not out of obligation, not out of stress, but because we could. Because it was mine again. We scrubbed the kitchen, threw out the trash, opened windows, let fresh air move through a space that had been stagnant for too long. And somewhere between wiping down counters and rearranging furniture, I felt it. The shift. Not dramatic, not overwhelming, just real, like I could finally breathe again. Later that night, after Sarah left, I sat alone at the kitchen table. A clean table. In a quiet apartment. With nothing demanding anything from me. And for a moment, I didn't know what to do with that. Because when you've spent years surviving, peace can feel unfamiliar. Almost uncomfortable. But I sat with it. Let it settle. Let it become something I didn't have to question. And then my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I hesitated. Then answered. Hello. Stella. My mom. Her voice was different. Quieter. I heard he moved out, she said. He did. A pause. How are you feeling? I blinked, because that question should have been asked weeks ago. But still, it mattered. I'm okay? I said. And for the first time, it wasn't a lie. She exhaled softly. I didn't realize how much you were carrying, she admitted. I didn't respond. Because we'd already had that conversation, this wasn't about repeating it. I'm trying, she added, to understand. I leaned back in my chair. Careful. You can start by respecting my boundaries, I said. I am, she replied quickly. I will. Silence. Not uncomfortable, just new. I'm proud of you, she said finally. The words caught me off guard. Because I didn't expect them. Not from her. Not yet. But I didn't reject them either. Thank you, I said. And I meant it. We hung up a few minutes later. No arguments. No guilt. Just a conversation, a small one. But real. And as I sat there in the quiet, I realized something. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning. Of something different. Something healthier. Something mine. But healing. It doesn't happen overnight. And just when I thought things were finally settling, something unexpected showed up at my door, something that reminded me, some chapters don't close quietly. They leave something behind. The box was sitting right outside my door. No name. No note. Just there. And I knew instantly it wasn't random. Because nothing about the past few weeks had been random. I stood there for a second, keys still in my hand, staring at it like it might explain itself if I waited long enough. It didn't. So I picked it up. It wasn't heavy. But it felt intentional, like whatever was inside mattered. I closed the door behind me, set the box on the kitchen table, and just stood there. Quiet apartment. Soft hum of the fridge. My own breathing. It still felt strange how peaceful everything was now. No chaos. No noise, tension. Just space, mine. I grabbed a butter knife from the drawer and carefully sliced through the tape. Slow. Deliberate. Like I wasn't just opening a box. I was opening something else. Something I wasn't sure I was ready for. The flaps fell open, inside newspaper. Carefully wrapped, layered, protected. My chest tightened, because I already had a feeling. I reached in and pulled one piece out, unwrapped it, and froze. A plate, white, thin blue border, simple, familiar, too familiar. I set it down slowly. Then reached for another. A bowl, same design, same weight, same memory. And suddenly, I wasn't in my apartment anymore. I was 10 years old again, sitting at a small kitchen table while my grandmother served Sunday dinner. Same plates, same blue edges, same feeling of calm, before everything got complicated, before the divorce, before survival became the only thing that mattered. I sat down, still holding the bowl, and just stared at it. Because I knew who sent it. There was no note, no explanation. But it didn't need one. My mom remembered. Out of everything, the arguments, the silence, the distance, she remembered this. And for a moment, I didn't know what to feel. Because it wasn't an apology. Not really. But it also wasn't nothing. It was something in between. Something quiet, something careful. Something that didn't demand forgiveness, but maybe hoped for it. I let out a slow breath, set the bowl down, then started unwrapping the rest. 4 plates, 4 bowls, a full set, simple, solid, real. I carried them to the sink, washed each one slowly. Not because they were dirty but because I needed the moment, needed the process. Needed to feel something that wasn't anger or exhaustion. Just present. When I finished, I dried them carefully and placed them in the cabinet. The same cabinet that used to hold Derek's junk. Energy drinks. Random snacks. Things that never lasted. Now it held something different. Something that meant something. I stepped back, looked at the space, and for the first time, it felt complete. Not perfect. Not fixed. But mine. That night I cooked. Not because I had to. Not because someone expected it. But because I wanted to. Chicken. Simple seasoning. A salad. Nothing fancy. But it felt different. Because every movement was mine. Every choice was mine. I plated the food on one of the new dishes, sat at the table, and ate. Slowly, quietly, peacefully. No pressure, no noise. No one waiting for something from me. Just me. And for a moment I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Content. My phone buzzed. I glanced at it. A message from Sarah. "How's the freedom life treating you?" I smiled slightly. Because she knew. She always knew. "It's quiet," I replied. Good quiet or weird quiet. I looked around the apartment. At the clean counters. The organized space. The dishes in the cabinet. My quiet. I typed back. 3 dots appeared. Then. Best kind. I set my phone down. Finished my meal. And just sat there for a while. Letting it sink in. Because this wasn't just about Derek leaving. Or my mom changing. Or setting boundaries. It was about something bigger. Something deeper. Taking my life back. Piece by piece. Choice by choice. And for the first time, I wasn't scared of what came next. A few days later, I ran into Adrian at work. Different department now. Different floor. But somehow same presence. Calm, focused, grounded. We ended up at the coffee station at the same time. Neither of us spoke at first. Just that quiet understanding, the kind that doesn't need filling. "Heard you got the full-time offer," he said finally. I nodded. "Yeah. Starting next month." He took a sip of his coffee, not surprised. I glanced at him. Because coming from him, that meant something. "Thanks," I said. There was a pause. Then, "I stopped carrying things that weren't mine," I added. I don't know why I said it. Maybe because he was there that night. Maybe because he understood without needing the full story. He nodded. "Hardest thing to do," he said. "It is," I admitted. Another pause. "Comfortable. Easy. Keep going," he added. 2 words. Simple. But they stayed with me long after he walked away. Because that's what this was now. Not a moment. Not a decision. A direction. And I wasn't turning back. That night, I sat on my couch. My couch. New pillows. New energy. The apartment felt different now. Lived in, but not weighed down. Peaceful, but not empty. Alive, but not chaotic. I looked around. Really looked. And realized something. I didn't lose my family. Not completely. What I lost was the version of them that only existed because I kept sacrificing myself. And what I gained was something I should have had all along. Control, respect, space, the right to exist in my own life without apologizing for it. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my mom. I stared at the screen for a second, then answered. "Hey," I said. She replied. Her voice was softer now. Less sharp, less guarded. I got the dishes, I asked. A small pause. Yeah, she said. I wasn't sure if you'd want them. I do, I said. Thank you. Another pause, but this one felt different. Not tense, just careful. I remember you liked them, she said. I did, I replied. I still do. Silence. Then, I'm trying, she said quietly. I believed her, not completely, but enough. I know, I said. And for now, that was enough too. We didn't talk long. Didn't need to. Because some things take time. And for the first time, I wasn't rushing that process. I was letting it happen, at its own pace. On my terms, I ended the call, set my phone down, and leaned back into the couch. The room was quiet. Soft light from the lamp, a calm I used to chase, but never reach. And now, it was just there. But deep down, I knew something. This wasn't just the end of a chapter. It was the start of something bigger. Because the real transformation wasn't what I did that night. It was who I became after it. And that was only just beginning. I didn't tell you everything. That's what my mom said, and something about the way her voice sounded made my chest tighten before she even finished the sentence. It was late. Too late for casual conversation, too late for small talk. The kind of late where truth usually shows up uninvited. I sat up on the couch, the soft glow of the lamp casting shadows across the room that used to feel heavy, but now just felt still. What do you mean? I asked. There was a pause. I need to see you, she said. Not a request, not quite a demand. Something in between. I hesitated. Old instincts told me to say no, to protect the peace I had just rebuilt. But something deeper told me this mattered. Okay, I said. Come over. She arrived 20 minutes later, no slippers this time. No rushed energy, just quiet. Careful. Like she understood she was stepping into something she couldn't control anymore. I opened the door, she stepped inside, and for a moment, she just looked around. Not critically, not dismissively, just observing. It feels different, she said softly. It is, I replied. She nodded, then sat down at the kitchen table. The same table where everything had changed weeks ago. The same table where I finally chose myself. I sat across from her, waiting. Because this time, I wasn't going to fill the silence for her. She took a breath. Then another. Like she was trying to find the right place to start. There's a reason I pushed Derek onto you, she said finally. My stomach dropped, not because I didn't expect something like this, but because of how calm she sounded. Like she'd already accepted it. Accepted whatever came next. Okay, I said slowly. She looked down at her hands, then back at me. I was tired, she admitted. The words felt small, too small for what they carried. I spent years taking care of both of you, she continued. After your dad left, everything fell on me. I didn't interrupt. Didn't argue. Because this part, I already knew. I didn't have space to fall apart, she said. So I didn't. Her voice cracked slightly. But she didn't stop. I just kept going, kept fixing things, kept holding everything together. I watched her carefully. Because this wasn't the version of her I was used to. This one was honest. I thought when you moved out, she continued, was my turn to breathe. There it was, the truth behind everything. Not control, not manipulation, escape. And Derek? I asked quietly. She let out a small, bitter laugh. He reminded me too much of everything I couldn't fix. That hit differently. Because it wasn't blame. It was exhaustion. I didn't want to deal with him anymore, she admitted. So I told myself you were stronger, more responsible, that you could handle it. I leaned back slightly, careful processing. So you gave him to me? I said. She nodded. Yes. No excuses. No deflection. Just truth. And the money? I asked. I needed it, she said. But I also didn't want you to say no. Of course. Because if she told the truth, I might have had a choice. And choice would have changed everything sooner. I thought I was helping you both, she added quickly. Keeping him off the streets. Keeping you close to family. I shook my head slightly. You weren't helping, I said. You were shifting the weight. She didn't argue, didn't defend, because she knew. I see that now, she said quietly. Silence settled between us, not tense, Not angry. Just real. I didn't realize how much it cost you, she added. I looked at her. Really looked. And for the first time, I didn't see the version of her that controlled everything. I saw someone who had been holding too much for too long, and made the wrong choices trying to survive it. It didn't excuse what she did, but it explained it. And sometimes, that's where healing starts. I almost died, I said softly. Her eyes filled instantly. I know, she whispered. And I wasn't there. No, I said. You weren't. The truth hung between us. Heavy. Unavoidable. I'm sorry, she said again, but this time, it sounded different. Not automatic, not defensive, just real. I took a breath. Because this was the moment. The one that decides what happens next. Not just with her. I forgive you, I said. Her head snapped up. Shock, relief, disbelief, all at once. But that doesn't mean things go back to how they were, I added. Her expression shifted. Understanding. I know, she said. And it doesn't mean I carry things that aren't mine anymore. She nodded. You shouldn't. And it doesn't mean I fix everything for everyone. I wouldn't ask you to, she said. We sat there in silence for a moment, but this time, it felt different. Not like something was breaking. Like something was rebuilding. Slowly, carefully, the right way. What happens now? She asked. I thought about it. About everything. The past. The chaos. The silence. The change. We start over? I said. But differently. She nodded. I'd like that. I stood up slowly. Walked to the cabinet. Pulled out 2 plates. The ones she sent. The ones that meant something. I set them on the table. Then looked at her. Stay for dinner, I said. Her eyes softened. I'd like that too. And for the first time in a long time, it didn't feel like obligation. It felt like choice. Real choice. Later that night, after she left, I stood alone in my apartment. Clean, quiet, mine. I walked through each room slowly. Not checking. Not fixing. Just existing. Because for years I wasn't living. I was surviving. Carrying things that weren't mine. Fixing problems I didn't create. Losing pieces of myself just to keep everything else from falling apart. But not anymore. Now, I choose what I carry. I choose what I keep. I choose who gets access to my life. And most importantly, I choose myself. I walked over to the window. Looked out at the city lights. And for the first time, I didn't feel trapped. I felt free. Not because everything was perfect, but because I finally understood something. Freedom isn't about leaving people behind. It's about no longer abandoning yourself to keep them. And as I turned off the lights and walked back into my space, I realized something else too. This wasn't just the end of my story. It was the first time I was actually the one writing it.